Hey everybody, John Granato and Lance Erline from the bench. Mornings on ESPN 97.5 and 92.5. If you haven't yet, please hit subscribe so that you can get all our content here on SportsMap HOU. Lance, last week Bleacher Report outlined all the reasons they believe Correa is in line to get a Tatis Lindor type of mega deal. Since May 12th, he's been on fire. He's hitting .367, 6 homers. He's just been awesome. And meanwhile, Story and Seager are hurt. Baez has struggled this season. Considering the timing and his performance, is there any chance that Carlos is an Astro next year?
No, and let's think back to when you and I were discussing it. And, you know, the thought was, boy, if Carlos doesn't just take this money, that's a big problem for him because look at all these other great shortstops that are going to hit the market. And now, as the dust isn't settled yet. I mean, baseball's a long season. But what we know is that he's at the top of the food chain right now as it pertains to the shortstop class. That's where it currently stands. So, obviously, John, I think he had a great chance of being an Astro before the Tatis deal. But once the Tatis deal hit, and then it was no longer just a one-off deal when Lindor signed a similar deal, I think we both knew the writing was on the wall that Correa was going to be out of there. He was not going to take, and his agents were not going to take a deal that would have paid him $200 million less, $170 million less. That was never happening. And we can say what we think his value is, but the reality is the value is going to be whatever it is out on the open market. And I think once the Astros let him get out to the open market, which is going to happen now, it's a wrap. They're not going to be able to keep him because I don't think they value him at a $30 million a year player.
Yeah, I got to admit, I was off on Carlos. I mean, I thought he was taking too big a risk. As injury prone as he's been, his regular season last year, I mean, he has been really good. And listen, for whatever reason, and I pointed it out before the season started. For whatever reason, we've all thought that Lindor was so much better. They had the same exact OPS at 833, and now Carlos has risen and Lindor's has fallen. So this is certainly Carlos is winning as far as now. He's got to stay healthy and he's got to continue to hit like this, but he looks more confident than he has maybe ever at the plate. He feels great. He's looking great. He took a chance on himself. And God bless, he's going to get paid. He's going to get paid big money, and he didn't take less. He knew what his value would be. Now he's still got to do all of these things. Right. And like you said, it's a long season, and we're not even to the halfway point yet. So I'm happy for him. He's going to make himself a lot of money. He bet on himself and he won. Now, what do the Astros do? Is the fan base going to be happy with a straw type replacement? Someone in the organization that's going to have to, learn their way and have to make all the mistakes and not be as good? Or do they go out in the free agent market and try to find a real replacement for him?
Well, I think they may go out in the free agent market, but it's not going to be for any of the players that you mentioned. I mean, why pay for someone else's player when you got your own homegrown player here? So I could see – I don't know if there's anyone on the roster or coming up in the minors that they envision ready to do that. I do think they'll go cheap. I mean, I do think they will look at the Carlos Correa deal and say we could spend, upwards of $28 million a year for a Carlos Correa, or we could spend $10 million for this player. And so I think they'll go find a free agent, a ready-made player, a guy who's ready to play. And this is where analytics, is at its best, is finding value-oriented players on the marketplace. So this is something that James Click should be good at finding someone to replace Carlos. You're going to get worse defensively, and by the looks of it, you're probably going to get worse offensively as well, potentially. But finding a replacement for a star-level player is never easy, but I don't think it's going to come from within. I do think it's going to come from the free agent market. I don't think it's going to be one of those aforementioned shortstops. No,
and Baez, I mean, he turned down stupid money already with the Cubs, so that's not going to happen. Story thinks he's going to get –
Everyone thinks they're getting $300 million.
Everybody thinks that, and it's just not going to happen. Maybe some middle-of-the-road shortstop somehow, some way, because Leon, they've moved him to short, but he's a ways away from getting up here. That's just not going to happen next year, as soon as next year. At least we don't think it is. But here's the other thing, though, is Verlander money comes off and Greinke money comes off the books. So and you're pretty damn good with your pitching still, and you still have all of these good hitters in place. There's money to be spent there. While we don't think and Jim Crane has always spent money, so while we don't think it's going to be a top-line guy, who knows? You just never know.
Yeah, if there's money to spend, then spend it on Carlos.
Well, I don't know that they want to spend that much. Carlos is going to be at the top of the food chain right now.
Yeah, and I also don't think it's a lock that Greinke or Verlander maybe doesn't get a sniff with another short-term deal with the Astros, even if it's a year, maybe 2 years with Greinke, a year. You could see those guys come back for $25 million. They could come back for a 1-year deal just to extend that deal a little, extend that window just a little bit more for your idea of a championship window. So that's still on the table as well. But they do have flexibility. That's a good thing.
I could see that with Verlander. I don't know if I could see that with Greinke, though. I could certainly see that with Verlander, though. You want to get at least more than one start out of $66 million.